Novonix today is a battery technology and materials business with operations primarily located in North America, in the USA and Canada. The two main areas of focus for the business right now, one is to commercialize a premium anode material for the lithium-ion battery market to feed the electric vehicle market. And that's a business called Pure Graphite, operating out of Tennessee in the USA. The other part of our business is a battery technology solutions business, which operates out of Halifax in Canada. That business has flagship and I guess very innovative battery cell testing equipment, which is used by most battery developers around the world. So they essentially develop and sell very specialized, highly accurate battery cell testing equipment. So when scientists around the world are changing chemistries, trying to select better materials to go in their batteries, or making tweaks to their design of their batteries, our technology helps them get verification about the effectiveness of those changes they make in weeks, rather than waiting for up to a year or more to get that data, which traditional testing equipment, that's the sort of time frames you're dealing with. So we do have very important technology that we sell out of our Halifax business, albeit it's very specialized and focused on the R&D market. So when you look at our business, they're the two main components to it. The battery materials part of the business is by far the largest commercial opportunity that's presented by Novonix. It's a business that is currently seeking to commercialize and enter a market which is about a $1.5 billion global market today, forecast growing rapidly and forecast to grow in the order of $10 to $10 billion over the next 10 years. So there's very few players in that market, and there's very few players in that market that can make premium, high-end anode material targeted for the EV market. And that's exactly what we can make in the USA. All of that market currently is supplied out of Asia. So there's no significant supplier in the world outside of Asia providing high-end anode materials for the lithium-ion market. We expect to be the first significant player outside of Asia providing an alternative supply of premium end graphite anode material for the battery market. So that's sort of an important point I want to make, is that commercially, when you look at Novonix and look at the upside potential of this business, the largest driver of that is the pure graphite business. It's the battery materials and getting into the supply chain of the battery cell manufacturing market. The business out of Halifax, I think of it more as the brains of our company, and the strategic, advantage of the company comes out of Halifax. So that's where our battery scientists develop these technologies that give us the advantage. So, for instance, the flagship Novonix testing technology that allows scientists to iterate a lot quicker than in the past, that's the technology that has enabled us to develop anode materials that outperform others in the world. All right, so it's a very important linkage. We use our own technology to develop materials. But the other very important point is that we sell that testing technology to pretty much all the major battery makers of the world and R&D departments around the world. And those are the people that make decisions about what materials go inside of the batteries that they manufacture. So we already have very good relationships with all those key decision makers that are deciding on what materials go into batteries. And they're the people we're talking to about buying our pure graphite anode material to put in their battery. So it's a very important cross-selling point about the two parts of our business, the strategic business in Halifax and our battery materials business in Tennessee. So I guess now I'll move to more really an update of where we are today and some significant events that have happened in recent months. The most significant one, as I mentioned this morning, is the fact that we've exercised the call option that we negotiated some 2 years ago to increase our interest in the pure graphite joint venture from 50% to 75%. So that option expired on the 2nd of February, and we exercised that option on the 31st of January, and we now moved to 75%. One very important part of the puzzle that goes with that call option is the fact that we also negotiated, if we called that option, we would get 100% of all of the production rights above 1,000 tonnes per annum going forward. So essentially, it also captures the blue sky, all of the blue sky for this business. So it is a very important transaction for us. When you sit back and look at the economic potential effect of that transaction on Novonix, I see it as potentially doubling or more the economic opportunity for our whole business. Because as I said before, the biggest commercial opportunity is the battery materials business, and this is essentially doubling our economic interest in that business, barring 25% of the first 1,000 tonnes. Our intention is to manufacture much more than 1,000 tonnes. Our current business plan has us going to 1,000 tonnes this year. Our 5-year plan is 25,000 tonnes, and we hope to produce a lot more than that going forward, hopefully 100,000 tonnes one day. So it's a very significant transaction, and the exercise of that transaction was a very compelling decision that we made in January. So that's an important milestone. When you drill into that decision that we made, we undertook a lot of due diligence in our process of making that decision, and we've been driving that pure graphite business very hard ahead of making that decision. So some of the key areas there are the product. We wanted to verify, and we have verified for ourselves, that the product that pure graphite makes and the maiden product that we are have released now to the market, we've confirmed with our own internal testing and also now external testing, customer testing, that this material is as good as any other material in the market or better. So it performs very well. The other part of it, it is ready for the market in terms of manufacturing. So the other part of this, and where a lot of companies don't succeed, is being able to make a material that can go into the current manufacturing process, particularly electrode making. So that's another very important factor that battery companies, when they're selecting a product, it has to just drop in nicely into their manufacturing process and perform very well through that, as well as delivering a great result in the final performance of the battery cell at the end of the day. So to sell a material, you have to successfully do those. So we verified that our materials and our product that we're rolling out now is market ready in both those regards to take on the best with the best. The other important point and aspect that we had to verify for ourselves is the readiness to manufacture this in commercial quantities and start sales. And we verified that we basically decided that we had a sufficient high confidence that we will, and the business can, deliver production by June this year, commercial quantities of production this year. So what that means is essentially we satisfied ourselves that all of the major manufacturing steps that go into making this product have been adequately tested at scale with scale size equipment, and we're satisfied that the performance and the output of that is sufficient for us to confidently move forward. So that's all been done. We are in the process of manufacturing our first plant, and we expect it to be producing in commercial quantities by June this year. So that was very important. The other very important point is sales, right? So that is the other area of significant due diligence. We looked into exactly where we are with that. And I guess there's two aspects to this. One is we're working with domestic US battery makers. We have quite a number of those already testing our materials, and the results so far are very good with that, and we have more of those companies lining up to test our materials. In respect to the large global battery manufacturers, we have also commenced testing programs with them, with our materials. But basically, the samples that we're giving to companies now, and this really came about from January this year, is we're actually giving them samples of the product, the finished product that comes from commercial size equipment. So it's not from a pilot plant anymore, it's actually the commercial product that they can fully test and put an order in for at volume, so they can order this material. So that's a very important milestone that's been achieved by the company now. And we are progressively rolling that out and starting testing programs with multiple global customers right now. The feedback so far on the testing that's been done over the last 6 weeks has been very good. There's no red lights whatsoever. The materials are performing well, and the people that we're dealing with are moving those materials into second and third phase testing. So we're very happy with how that is going. So there, I guess at a high level, the due diligence points that really went to us making the decision also gives you a good update of where the business is at right now. Just quickly before we go to Q&A, I will touch on the battery technology business in Halifax and let you know a little bit more about what's happening there. So there's a couple of components to this business today. When we bought that business in June 2017, it primarily was just selling this specialized HPC equipment, right? So that continues. The sales of that equipment is growing nicely. It grows at about 30% per annum. I think they're expected to turn over get about $3 million of revenue this year. And we expect that growth rate to continue. But again, it's not a massive commercial opportunity. It's more a strategic opportunity because each of the sales we're achieving there is another significant battery organization that we're building relationships with. We're also making money out of selling new equipment, so it's very nice. But it's more strategic. Now, what we've done since acquiring that business is we've invested in diversifying that business because the core talent that resided in Halifax was actually battery materials science, not so much building equipment and selling specialized equipment. So we've invested about $1.5 million, and the government of Canada have invested about $1 million in setting up our capability to develop next generation materials ourselves out of Halifax. So we now have a fully operational, full-size battery cell manufacturing plant. We also have a fully equipped laboratory for electrolyte development. And in October last year, we signed a partnership with Dalhousie University, which is just up the road in Halifax, where we have a professor and 12 PhDs trainees working exclusively developing next generation battery materials for ourselves. So when you look at that business up there today and you walk into it, more than half the business today is about developing new materials. The other half is the traditional battery technology equipment and sales business. In fact, that one's probably going to have to move out to another location, and we'll expand the other one. So because both businesses are growing. So I guess I just want to point out that we see that Halifax business as being the incubator of future IP and future businesses for Novonix. Already, with the Dalhousie relationship, we've already filed a patent for our first invention, which is a silicon-infused graphite that's been developed by Dalhousie and has great commercial potential. So that patent has been filed, and that the publication hasn't come yet, but it'll be coming in the next couple of months in a journal, and then we'll start talking about it a lot more. But for years and years, companies have been trying to put silicon into graphite to make the battery hold more capacity, because silicon can hold a lot more capacity. But the problem is the silicon expands and contracts and damages the graphite and the battery life. So this has been an ongoing problem that the industry has been dealing with. The guys working for us in Dalhousie have managed to get the silicon inside the graphite particles, right? So it's infused inside the particles through a process which interestingly is a very cheap process, which also makes the invention very, very attractive. Not only do they get the silicon inside the particle, but they do it in a manner which is very cheap. So it's good from many respects. So, we're not, counting our eggs with that, but we think it's certainly a great, within 3 months, we've filed our first patent. We think it's got great potential. And there's more in the pipeline. We're actually in the process of filing a second invention right now. And it's not for the anode, it's on the cathode side. So when I'm saying to you, we really are using this as an opportunity to incubate and create new value, we truly are. And by the way, we're doing it very economically. So the government matches our funding. The arrangements that we have, our team also provide outside services. So now that we have a cell line up there and have all this capability, we have lots of companies from Canada coming to us to get assistance with R&D, helping them design a battery, test a material, develop a material. So while we're not making money out of our own R&D department, we expect to, probably in the next few years, it'll be a profit centre as well as an R&D centre. So that's the whole idea, was to create an ecosystem in Halifax that funded itself, but then was an incubator for future value creation for the company. And we're well on the way to doing that. So I'm really excited by that.